The Mount Airy Resort and Casino in the Pocono Mountains was the scene of the speech last evening, the first in what we're told will be a series of campaign-style rallies, addresses to voters by the President of the United States on the issue of affordability. 90 minutes, and it was the greatest hits. He did talk about affordability. He also mocked affordability and got through a range of different issues in this period of time. Talking about everything from Somalia to what he said back in 2018 about certain African nations. We'll get to that in a minute. The point is, it was a noisy speech. The president was in full campaign rally mode, and there are questions as he reminded the crowd that he didn't even want to give that speech. He only did it because Susie Wiles forced him to. There are questions about whether this is going to be effective. We talked about it coming in. Let's do it now coming out with our political panel. Bloomberg Politics contributors Jeannie Sheehan Zaino and Rick Davis are with us. Rick is our Republican strategist, partner at Stone Court Capital. Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, remembering when Joe Biden tried some of this as our Democratic analyst and democracy visiting fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center. Hey, Jeannie, is this going better, based on what you saw last night, at least, for Donald Trump than it was for Joe Biden?
It is not, Joe. And I think, did he call her Susie Trump last night a few times as well? So Susie Wiles, hey, listen, I flub words too, but it was good. She said that he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be out on the campaign trail for the midterm like it's 2024. And if yesterday or last night was any indication, that is not a good strategy. Not just what happened at this rally, but also what happened in Florida and in Georgia in these elections where Republicans are underperforming. So Donald Trump consistently telling people everything's good. You only need to have, he brought up again, your favorite, Joe, the dolls. You only need a couple dolls.
Right.
This is not working. This is not working, and the polls show it.
He brought up the pencils as well, which we were exploring a little while ago with Stuart Paul. You don't need 37 dolls for your daughter, and you don't need all the pencils. He said only one should be enough. He twice called affordability a hoax, Rick, and then said that he's no longer allowed to use that phrase. What was the impact of this speech?
Well, it's got us talking about it. I think that was part of the strategy, was to try and change the narrative. He wasn't having a great narrative in the month of November and December, and they've been sort of off on various tangents for quite some time. And so this was at least the staff strategy of getting him out there talking about cost of living and affordability. Problem is, they didn't tell him what to say about it, obviously. I mean, I'm sure he got back to the White House and said, I said affordability 14 times. You can't call it a hoax 14 times and think you're going to get anywhere. I think message discipline is going to be a really hot issue in this White House for the next year, because clearly they've made a decision based on what he said last night that he believes he's on the ballot in 26. And if I were running a campaign right now, I wish he were, because there's no proof that without him on the ballot, these sort of new Republican voters that came in through MAGA are going to show up to vote. They are 1 every 4 years voters, and they've always has been, and that's not new to Trump. So when they've signed on with MAGA, what MAGA signed on to was a very difficult off-year election strategy. And so I get it. It's the strategy saying, most presidents would run away from a midterm. He's going to lean in because, without him making this about him, he can't rely on these voters to show up. And then a lot of Democrats are going to get elected, and it's going to really derail his second 2 years in office.
Rick mentions message discipline. And yes, we are talking about the speech. The president certainly got a lot of eyeballs, but I guess one of the issues might be the parts that are going viral. They're not about affordability. They're not even about tariffs. In this case, a brutal attack on the Somalian community again. He had some very long passages about immigration and veered into a lot of topics like that really were not central to the affordability message. and even confirmed reports that he had denied about the comments he made about some African and Asian nations. Let's go back to the real here.
They say, why is it we only take people from countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime.
Filthy, dirty, disgusting. Jeannie, back in 2018, when it had been reported that he used that term to describe African and Asian nations, he denied it, called it fake news, and reported by the enemy of the American people. He was boasting about it last night. Should we take him at his word?
This has been Donald Trump since he came down the elevator in 2016. There is nothing new here. We have it on tape over and over again. He resorts to this kind of rhetoric when he's got nothing else to offer because he thinks he is going to be able to rile up his base and get them out to vote. But the problem is the results, at least this year, are showing something completely different. You look down at that Miami mayor's race, where he endorsed the Republican candidate who lost by double digits to the first Democrat since 1998, the first female. And what did she run on, Joe? She ran, of course, on affordability, but in particular on these ICE raids, on the treatment of immigrants. This is something we are seeing writ large across the country as we have an ICE that is out picking up young college-age freshmen in Logan Airport and transporting them against a judge's ruling back to a country they haven't been to since they were a child. We have a report out from Amnesty International yesterday describing the conditions at Alcatraz Alley as deplorable, violations of human rights. He's taken an issue that he was okay on and doing pretty well on, and he has turned it around. And why? Because of his treatment. And this rhetoric is another reminder of his treatment of immigrants and migrants to this country, which most people in the moderate and independents don't find particularly appealing, and which is costing Republicans elections like we saw in Miami yesterday.
How are you reading this Miami race, Rick? Eileen Higgins, the first Democratic mayor in nearly 30 years, is a heck of a headline. 59%, according to the unofficial results. Emilio Gonzalez had about 40%. He was supported by Trump and DeSantis. Is there a message here, or is this a one-off?
You know, it's a little bit of a canary in the coal mine. This should have been a no-brainer. Republican control of Florida has become a standard, right? Democrats barely even want to run there anymore. And to see something like this happen in the municipality, look, it's a ceremonial at best mayor's race. It's not Dade County, right? And so, but, you know, the Republican was a Cuban. That should have ensured victory on its own just from the demographics. Cuban community tends to be monolithic in their voting patterns, and there are a lot of them in this jurisdiction. So yeah, I think it's a wake-up call. I don't think it compares to what we saw last November, where, you know, Democrats swept state houses and you know, in two important electoral states. I think that's the message, you know, Republicans need to be understanding. But this certainly is consistent with that, and that is we're not getting our votes out. People aren't happy with what we're doing. I don't think this was an immigration vote. She ran on, the winner Democrat ran on corruption and cutting red tape so that we can have more real estate development in the city. I mean, like, I don't buy that that's the narrative, that this anti-immigration narrative is played out in this race. Maybe others for sure, but not this one.
Are we too quick to try to turn every race into a bellwether here, Jeannie? We've got some time before the midterms.
Yeah, some time to go. You know, yeah, you can't read too much into any single one, but if you look at the totality of the races we have seen, both the specials and the off-year elections this year, they have been all moving in the Democratic, into the Democratic side. Even those that Democrats have lost, they have been much too close for comfort. And, you know, I disagree with Rick. You look at her messaging. she was very, very much focused on the ICE raids. And you look at that, and that tells you something. He is not, and Republicans are not just vulnerable on the economy, where they are very vulnerable. They are also vulnerable on what has been his go-to issue, which is immigration. And people are seeing their neighbors treated in a deplorable way. It has been a consistent messaging on the Democratic side. You look at the New York City Democratic races coming up, that's what they're messaging on. It's across the country, and it is registering with independents, moderates, and Democrats in a way that this was always a winning message for him, an issue for him. It is not anymore with the overreach of ICE.